X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. Hi, Adam.
Hello, Zach. It does feel like we've been doing this podcast for quite some time. Some might even say forever.
And you know what? I think back to our first episodes.
Yeah.
The before episodes that definitely happened. The secret, unaired episodes about the secret podcast we did. And I'm like...
The first Boda as opposed to Boda Forever?
Yeah, the first Boda. Because there is the first Boda. Boda will go on forever. There is the... After we had our schism back in 19, I'm throwing out a guess here. And the podcast was never the same again. You know, I do wonder what it would be like if we were to just start the podcast right from that spot, see what we would have done differently.
Yeah, and I'm sure that whatever, show was produced would be exactly what we would have produced had we been able to go back in time and actually do it. I'm sure it would be exactly the same.
There definitely aren't very obvious and well-promoted things that definitely changed in the interim that don't make sense if they weren't changed, and were changed because someone else did the exact same plot just a few years earlier. And we'll get to that. Hey guys, we're talking about X-Men Forever this week.
We are not the X-Men Forever we have talked about before on the show, which I had forgotten about, but was that wacky deep dive by Fabes, right?
Yeah, it wasn't good, but it was interesting. Did exist.
Yeah.
It was about Prosh. How interesting can something with Prosh, the professor, the ship be?
It was taking some risks. I think we agreed it was not successful. But
it was really successful with having multiple scenes of the Juggernaut being stuck in a hole throughout time and realizing that he spent so much time stuck in a hole.
But I think the Forever we're talking about today is the more familiar one by Mr. Claremont. And who requested this?
Oh, this was requested by Mullet Overlord. And if you want to be like Mullet Overlord, you can go over to patreon.com/comicsxf, reach deep down into your hearts and your pocketbooks, and toss a couple of coins into our coffers to keep some of the great content that we have going. In fact, the day that we're recording this was a great day for Comics XF content. This week we've had a redesign go up that's been awesome. We had I interviewed Claudio Sanchez from the band Coheed and Cambria about his upcoming comic, which was a lifelong dream for me.
Congratulations.
Leah Williams told us which Terminators vape, fulfilling a bit that, if you remember, oh my gosh, you're one of the OGs on this podcast and this site. Was that pre-podcast? I think it might. Bit might. Are we
referring to Does Gambit vape? I think that is Xavier Files.
Which X-Men vape? Gambit. Yes. Well, it's obviously a Xavier Files bit, but I'm trying to remember which X-Men vape came out.
It was a while back.
It was 2017. It was July 2017. Adam, it was a mere month before the podcast launched.
Wow. So, Rob interviewed Leah for that piece. I think it was done very, very well. Just peak journalism right there.
Yep. And yep again. We should... Did I say Jubilee? Yeah, I said Jubilee definitely vapes. Okay, I feel great that me and Leah, we're on the same page. Dazzler vapes. Leah says that she...
No, Dazzler does not. I believe that's the... Well, why are we spoiling the article? We should let people
go read the article. Go read the article, and then go read the article from 2017 where I just have a list of X-Men. I say if they vape or not. That's a deep cut. Man, vapes have been with us since before 2017. Can you imagine that vapes have been around so long?
You'd really think that people would be smarter, but whatever. I guess people like breathing things.
Folks love. I gotta have my vape. Gotta have my vape, and I've gotta have my X-Men Forever.
Do you though? So
No.
let's talk about the pitch of this. This is 2009,
It
and
is.
interesting, I guess, moment in time to say, you know what Chris Claremont should really do is pick up his 16-year run and just keep going.
I can understand the appeal. It is scratching the exact same itch that the Roy Thomas X-Men comic that came out today also scratches, which is people who want to read about X-Men from when they were young.
Sure. I remember hearing about this, not having read it while I was in the midst years ago of reading the Claremont run and being like, oh, okay, well, this is an interesting idea. And then perusing it and realizing immediately that this was never what Claremont was going to do had he kept writing X-Men. Like, it's just not. The basic premise is that he is picking up on X-Men Volume 2 with issue 4, and this is supposed to be exactly what he was thinking about in 1991, 1992. I mean, no, it's not. It's absolutely not.
Okay, no, there's one thing. I think if you take just this issue, you could say maybe just this issue, because the cliffhanger at the end of this issue is Wolverine is murder killed for good.
Yeah, so we're covering just the first 5 issues. So this is the first arc of X-Men Forever Volume 2 by Chris Claremont and Tom Grummett.
Tom Grummett. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Wolverine gets murder killed, which Claremont wanted to do.
Yes.
Claremont was going to have him resurrected by the Hand and become an assassin and doing a Wolverine enemy of the state.
Pretty funny, right? That was.
Can
what
you
he had
imagine Wolverine enemy of the state, but Jim Lee's drawing it?
That'd be pretty.
It's
badass.
Probably the same story, actually. Hold on, I think it's exactly the same.
As someone who has been recently rereading Wildcats, those man, Jim had it going on right then, man. He really knew what he was doing. Grummett is doing fine. I mean, it certainly is not evocative of the 90s. It's more actually in line with what I think of with the animated series. You know, it seems more on model with what you might see if you picked up like one of the X-Men 92 series, right? That's the feeling I get.
It's clean. I think it evokes more of like it is more in tune with a John Byrne or a Walt Simonson than it is a Jim Lee.
Yeah, there's definitely a John Byrne influence. Maybe in line with
he did the big ones.
Yeah,
he did the biggest ones.
Sure. And not everybody is completely on model. Like, for some reason, Professor X is not in his gold floaty chair. What's up with that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He gets that gold floaty chair after he comes back from space with his spacebird girlfriend.
Little weird, right? But for the most part, they're wearing the Jim Lee costumes, though the big departure here is that Kitty and Kurt are back on the team.
They're back here. Colossus and Angel and Iceman and Psylocke, probably the most egregious, just not mentioned.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Like, the idea of the blue and gold teams is not mentioned at all. And not that really was brought up, I think, until X-Men Volume 2, number 4 anyway. But
no,
it's in.
Is it? I don't know. Actually, no, you might be right.
I think 4 is where they finally like have that double page spread of all of the X-Men in the dining
around
room.
The thing. That might be the case, actually.
Yeah. But it's still it's a Claremont friendly lineup that we've got here. And right off, page 1, Jean and Wolverine making out on a beach in Fantasyland. And
Chris Claremont would have listened. That's Chris's OTP. he's wrong, but Chris Claremont loves Jean and Wolverine together.
Yeah.
And he was making them more and more overt about that as the teams came back, like in Extinction Agenda, where they make out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that I can kind of buy. It's a little like hitting you over the head with a frying pan. Like every other panel with either character is like, damn, she's really hot. I love her so much. And she's like, oh, Wolvie. You know, it's a little heavy handed.
It's a very heavy.
Little is probably not the right word. We get Fabian Cortez as the main villain here in the first issue, but then Shield is really very present here,
which had more or less been the case with Claremont's Uncanny and the start of X-Men Volume 3 or Volume 2.
Right, because they had teamed up for the Magneto protocols.
Yeah, the Magneto stuff they started in like the Savage Land stuff in 275, around 275, and then they jump from that to Muir Island where Shield's not around, but then they are involved in the in like X-Men volume 2, 1 through 3.
They're even in Muir Island because remember that
no,
you know,
I'm just going to tell you, I don't remember that in Muir Island.
You know what?
I believe you.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. You know, do I think that Claremont is definitely taking hints from where he was? Yes. Do I 100% believe that this is exactly what it might have been? I have a hard time with that. Though we are still seeing someone reflect on this time and basically do his Claremontian stuff. So like by the end of this, of course, Little Kid Storm is back.
Yeah, Ro is back. Because
why?
Claremont loves Little Kid Storm.
What is with Chris and the Little Kid Storm? Can we just like
Claremont?
Can we break this down?
No. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Chris Claremont loves Storm.
Sure.
In ways that most of us cannot even fathom loving a spouse. Chris Claremont loves Storm. Chris Claremont just wants to do weird stories about people being turned into babies. He does them a lot. There's no two ways around it.
It's really strange. And, you know, for somebody that will later, you know, do very weird stuff with Storm, like, you know, what was that? What was that one where she ends up in like the sex dungeon, like gladiatorial combat?
Oh, Storm the Arena.
Yeah. Like we've got Claremont obsessed with doing that kind of stuff with Storm, but we also have him obsessed with making her a little kid. Like right now on the shelves, you have the Gambit miniseries, which is again stories about Gambit and little kid Storm.
Oh, you mean Remy Picard, right?
I've only read the first issue of that, so I did not read.
Oh no, that's his name in X-Men Forever. It's Remy Picard. It's the weirdest choice.
Oh right, he does change it. Yeah. Why is that? Well, because we didn't know anything about Gambit, and
so I'm guessing Gambit. He probably was just like, no, that's Remy Picard. This is not LeBeau.
Yeah,
stupid Jim, you idiot.
Yeah,
that's not his last name. I'm going to be spiteful here.
Kind of testing the waters with like how characters interact with one another and this, that, and the other thing. So I think it's much more interesting as a sort of experiment than it is as a story, because what's revealed is that the character that killed Wolverine is the adult version of Storm. But we also have little kid Storm running around by the end of these 5 issues. So
something, Extinction Agenda, something. The Consortium.
The Consortium is here. We also have
made up.
Kitty Pryde, through a phasing accident, now has one of the adamantium claws.
100% the most Chris Claremont thing to ever happen. Is not only is Kitty Pryde here and she's really cool and she's the best one, she also is our replacement Wolverine. Fully buy that Chris would have done that had he had access to Kitty Pryde at this point.
it's just it's a wild mix
It's
of
weird.
of
It's a
ideas,
weird thing.
and it you know for Grummet's doing fine job with the artwork, but just as a story it feels very messy. It feels like someone grasping at history and just trying things out.
He
And
keeps what do you know what I love that he keeps his idea about Sabretooth being Wolverine's dad,
yeah.
and he makes that such a big thing, in so much that in this comic he's like, yes, as we all know, Wolverine, my child, was murdered, and
Mhm.
now I, Sabretooth, who's blind now, I guess, will be on the team.
And it's so matter of fact. A lot of this stuff is basically like, yeah, well, I've been saying this for years, so now it's just on
To
the
be
page
fair,
as fact.
Sabretooth kind of had been saying that for a while.
Oh, sure. No, absolutely. But like, it's the
We
kind of
think it's
thing.
weird now. At the time, actually, he kind of was.
What I mean by that is that, it's not the kind of thing that elicits surprise or, gasps from X-Men who might be shocked by such information. Everybody's just like, oh yeah, we all knew that. Claremont's
As
been
we
saying that
all
for years.
know. Yeah, this is a weird one. Like, the X-Men kind of become agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., kind of, or at least they are working very, very closely. It's just the weirdest thing about this is these comics are more or less fine. Are they good? No. Are they memorable? Also no. Are they aren't even weird enough to be like, oh my gosh, you have to read how weird this gets. What they aren't is interesting enough to go 24 issues on this series plus some annuals, and then another 16 issues. That's insane that X-Men Forever went that long.
Yeah, it lasts for a while. I just wish this was more fun. I know that there are folks out there that are constantly pining for Claremont X-Men, and I'm glad, for instance, they're getting what they want with the Gambit mini.
It's
Let them play in the sandbox. For me, I there's not as much enjoyment here as I would like.
it truly is the same feeling as if you read. Have you ever read any of John Byrne's X-Men Elsewhen?
Yeah, and it has a
It's
similar
the
vibe to it.
exact same. Like, I see what you're doing here, but I don't understand why it's happening. I get
Right.
it, but a Chris Claremont has lived with the question of what if things had happened differently for his entire career, and if you ever ask the man, he will let you know that he still holds a grudge on this one.
Yeah.
All of us moved on.
I do think
That's
that
the thing.
what's challenging about it, and the only reason I say that there's a similarity to the Burn stuff is just there's an element that, listen, everything that comes after Claremont is essentially a form of fan fiction. It's an extended narrative where you're building off of hundreds of people working on these books. But this in particular is an oddity because it is the original writer going back and doing a form of fan fiction, if you will. It's
He is doing
taking
self fanfic, isn't he?
right. It's saying I knew how to do this better at the time, and even if you did, this is not what it would have been. So
It's
it's
not what
this
would have worked in
weird.
1992 either.
No, absolutely not. So I still always have it in my mind that I don't believe it. I don't believe the premise. But again, like I said before, I just don't think it's very fun. So maybe we should take a crack at ranking this bad boy.
Oh yeah, because we rank things on this podcast. We've got a big old list ranking every X-Men story ever from best to worst, A to Z. Not A to Z. That's alphabetical. It is best to worst. I wonder if we did this A to Z, what it would look like. We'll do that sometime.
Well, we can sort the data on a separate slide if you'd like. I mean, a separate sheet if you'd like.
Adam, do not presume to tell me how to sort data in Excel.
It's a simple thing. We could.
Adam, I can't even talk to you right now. Do you have any idea how many tables I've pivoted?
I know that that's your middle name is Pivoter. So
Zachary Pivoter Jenkins. I don't think I say my last name on this show a lot. I assume people have figured it out. Anyway, we have 687 stories on this list. The best one is House of X Powers of 10. The 100th best one is X-Men Alpha Flight. The 200th best one is X-Force 1 to 2, a force to be reckoned with. The 300th story on this list is X-Men 39, Adam X the Extreme Goes Camping. 400 is New X-Men Choosing Sides. That's 1 to 6 of the Academy X era. Number 500 is Judgment War from X Factor. Number 600 is X-Men Noir. And then the bottom's the Draco. Where's X-Men Forever, Volume 1?
I think we're in the 500s.
Hold on. Forever.
You know,
it's not as bad as New Mutants Forever. It's 687.
Oh, definitely not. That's another Claremont joint. But, you know, that has all the Nazis in it. And, you know.
There's several Nazis in that one. That one's weird. And Nova Roma. It's just like, you gave me two things. And
it's rough.
One of them, when the more enjoyable thing is Nazis, then you're like, oh, this is a real Sophie's choice here.
I
X-Men
think
Forever by Fabian is at 645.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think we're that bad either. I do think we're probably lower than 550 though, which is the Wolverine and Elektra 102 and 103.
Lethal Larry. Yeah.
Yep.
Like Pride and Wisdom is better than this. And that's at 569.
I agree.
The Star Trek X-Men better than this.
Just working my way down.
How do you feel about this compared to Smokescreen?
Oh, I mean, I think Smokescreen is better.
Smokescreen's better than this. That's the Adam. That does push us into interesting territory. This is probably better as a narrative than 611, Pint Size X Babies Murderama.
I would agree. How about at 606, X-Men Volume 2, 100 to 102, Revolutions?
Revolutions is better.
Okay.
I like the Neo more than this. I like the one Neo that has guns for hands and it goes.
Yeah.
Gunhaver or whatever his name is.
Yeah. I mean, and right above that is X-Men Hidden Years, 6 to 7. Like we're in the same realm.
We are,
right?
We are in the realm of old guys coming back when they really should have just stayed away and enjoyed their legacy. This is probably better than Fabian Niciez's Captain Marvel 2 through 3, or I really want to get Adam X's origin story in here, and I'm going to do it any way I can.
I would agree. So this is going to be our new 607.
Let's make it 607. X-Men Forever is not good. I also want someone to do a dedicated X-Men Forever podcast where I can listen to everybody talk about X-Men Forever, an insane comic book.
Yeah, fascinating experiment there. And of course, we just mentioned there have been others. So there was X-Men Forever. There was then New Mutants Forever, which was just a mini. And then there was also the series we're going to talk about next, which is X Factor Forever.
Okay, so this is bringing Wheezy, Louise Simonson's back.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Panosian does the main work with Aluro. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Aluri
Almancino, and I believe
that's
Eric Newen does a lot of the art as well when Panosian is.
He does inks. So, and I think what it really comes down to when we're saying inks, there's a few pages where Panosian did the breakdowns, and
there's a considerable chunk of this that Panosian did not finish.
He did not finish to the same level as the rest of it.
No.
Panosian's art rules in this, though, right?
Yeah.
Killer stuff.
First thing we should say is that it's unlike Claremont, who I think probably was pining to do something like X-Men Forever and may have even pitched it. I don't know how that came to be. You get the impression from the introduction in the first issue that Wheezy was not anticipating getting the call to even do this series, but was still interested in pursuing it. So,
because what happens, Claremont gets fired from X-Men and nothing ever gets to that point again.
Mm-hmm.
Louise Simonson gets fired from X Factor and immediately kills Superman.
Yeah.
Louise Simonson, great trajectory up for her there.
Love Wheezy.
Listen, do I always love Louise Simonson's comics? Absolutely not. Love Wheezy. Love this for her. And this is absolutely the one other story she had for X Factor, which she has also told again recently in X-Men Legends.
It is wild how similar this is to the X-Men Legends 2 issues that she did with Walt recently. This is very, very similar.
Because what happens is that, well, first of all,
we should say what this is taking the place of.
Yeah, what is this taking the place of?
So folks, remember that right after Wheezy stopped writing the book, we got Endgame, right? Which was Jim Lee and Will Sportaccio writing with Claremont doing some of the dialogue.
Yeah.
But that was the big culminating thing that ended with Nathan being blessed into the future to become Cable. If everybody remembers that. So this is the concept of X Factor Forever is that story did not happen and that this story is happening in its place.
Immediately what happens is that Scott and Jean get cool 2000s costumes. Everyone else looks the same.
Those costumes are really amazing. They look fantastic.
Costumes rip.
Yeah.
You put those on a character in 1992, you're laughed out of the room.
Yeah, they have a new X-Men kind of style to them. But they look fantastic. They're kind of these, off-center X's and pretty neat. But
looks great.
Yeah, so this is really, and it's interesting because I think from an art perspective, I would much rather look, even though Panosian is killing it when he's actually doing all the art. I think I'd always prefer Walt. So the X-Men Legends issues are a lot of fun, right?
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yes, we would all prefer that Walt Simonson drew every comic.
Yes. So
Dan Panosian also wishes that Walt Simonson drew this comic.
That being said, the story that was told in X-Men Legends is a bit of a goof, whereas I think Luis is really going for something here. This has a lot more nuance and depth than what Claremont is trying to do with his X-Men Forever stuff.
There is something very interesting with both of these stories,
Yeah, especially because, when we talked about 10 of Swords, we talked about the fact that Apocalypse's motives and his motivations and his whole reason for doing whatever it is he's doing has been extraordinarily vague, right? And we never really got that up and through 10 of Swords because I think of the changing of the guards. If you go back to Endgame, you still don't really have a solid idea of what Apocalypse is about or what he wants. This story is very centered around exactly that. And not only is it going to tell its main story, but it's got a backup story which retells and in Wheezy's idea of what Apocalypse's true backstory was.
And it does it in such a way that it is in concert with the other Apocalypse stuff that was happening in X Factor. It really is. Endgame kind of comes in and just has Apocalypse as this weird big bad guy on the moon that's gonna infect a baby,
right?
For some reason. Then that's when Apocalypse goes off the rails. It's really unfortunate that those comics were incredibly popular and well selling. But what I think is very interesting, and it ties into what Apocalypse's motive is that Apocalypse has come to an understanding that there has never been a mutant born from two mutant parents, which means the mutant line doesn't actually have a very good chance of survival, and Apocalypse's job is to make sure that it does, so that he can stop the Celestials' judgment from destroying the world, because the Celestials want mutants to thrive for reasons. And it's an interesting kind of, dark truth about mutants in the X-Men that Claremont also does in X-Men Forever, where the big reveal in that is that, hey, if mutants use their powers too much, they're going to burn up. And he's like, why do you think all of you guys are 25?
Oh, I forgot about that. I'll give him credit. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's in
It was playing with the sliding time scale, and it was like, hey, how come you guys never get to be 30?
it's interesting. It's very thrown off by the fact that Charles Xavier's sitting there.
Right, right.
He's like, well, I'm in a wheelchair again because I used my powers too much. And if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, it completely falls apart. But
Yeah, because that's not what happened.
It's a nice little push through everything. It's a good concept, and I like the concept here in X Factor Forever. Like mutants have to question, because these are closed-ended stories. They're allowed to break things and say, what if mutants aren't going to be around forever? What do you do then?
Yeah, and it's a nice tie-in from not only Fall of the Mutants, right, where we had Apocalypse attack New York for the first time, but it also brings back the Celestials that we just saw in Judgment Day.
Judgment Day is going on right now.
It was kind of fun reading this again and currently reading Judgment Day because, right, like there's a lot of overlap.
It turns out everyone loves the idea of the Celestials because Jack Kirby had a great idea, and it was, what if there was a really big dude who gave a thumbs up or a thumbs down? And he didn't say anything else, and he was cool, and he had a coffee mug on his head.
Well, we know Kieran likes it because he's already done that too. In his Uncanny run. But I am really enjoying the current series, just as an aside.
Oh, hey, sidebar. Adam, you've read Acts 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It rules.
I'm just really enjoying the series. I think it's a lot of fun.
Spoiler alert, guys. Hit the skip forward for a second. If you haven't read Acts 5 yet, Judgment Day. It just came out last week. That part where the shield comes out through an egg. I'm like, yes, this is going to be messy. Let's do it. I don't know how this is
happening. Why does he have the shield in the egg?
Because comics, Adam, my friend, operate on the rule of that's going to look friggin' sweet. And you know what? It looks friggin' sweet when Captain America is reborn and punches his shield out of an egg.
Yep. Yeah. The last remaining 5 eggs. All right, we're getting away from X Factor Forever. So this does line up much, much better with where Wheezy had dropped off. So we're getting Caliban and Sabretooth stuff similar to where we were before in New Mutants. We're getting the Apocalypse relationship with Ship. I think that stuff's a lot better. And we get some fun Sinister stuff in here too.
Apocalypse is so mad at Mr. Sinister. This whole comic. He's like, I had a whole plan. I had spent centuries putting this together. I was going to stop the Celestials from judging this planet harshly. And freaking Nathaniel Essex comes on in here and screws with all of my stuff. He just had to go and do go and do a Crimea. I was going to say Crimea, and I know that's wrong.
A chimera.
A chimera. Thank you, Adam. Crimea is an annexed part of Ukraine that Russia is currently controlling and is a terrible crime. Man, Mr. Sinister, buck wild in this comic.
Yeah,
love it.
He's having a delight with his clone party in his basement, and
he's cloned everybody.
Yeah, he's so like, "Oh, good. You want some babies? Come into my baby room."
He literally says, "Look, hold on. Christopher Summers is fine, but I have some other models if you would like to try them on."
Right.
I've got so many babies here.
Yeah, and some of it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like Cable is there, and he's basically like, "Oh, you never made that connection, you dummies," and and it's like, well, okay, that's not how this story ends, so I'm not sure how that works, but sure, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, let's have some fun. I think where the story suffers is that as we've said already, Panosian does not do the finished art for the entire series, and that is to its detriment. Because when he is drawing, it's so great, and then when he's not, it's just okay. You know, the
Hiddleston
layouts are
has
fine.
he has a very angular, energetic style
Yes.
for all of this, and it rules, and I wish we got more of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Same.
another thing that happens in this is that everyone gets a baby,
Yes.
or at least a child in some form.
Yes.
Iceman, Oppo Tanaka finds a baby. Trish Tilby comes back from India with a child.
Yep.
Might have been kidnapping. I'm not fully sure.
It's a Shogo situation for sure.
She found a baby
On assignment.
Charlotte.
The baby was not on assignment. Trish Tilby was on assignment.
Yeah. Archangel spends a lot of time with Timmy Jones, that's Charlotte Jones's kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, babies are obviously the core theme of this. But it kind of works. Like, here's the thing, X Factor Forever kind of works.
It's a family, you know, X Factor was a family book, and this really does use the extended cast pretty well. There is that really awkward moment where Hank kind of accuses his teammates of like going around having unprotected sex and like having random babies with people.
You were like, eesh about this. Hold on. I know Warren Worthington III doesn't use protection, and I'm pretty sure Bobby Drake is. It just doesn't feel the same for him.
Listen, I think maybe
I buy that 150%.
I don't know how in depth we want to go with this. I just thought that the implication was a little bit much from Hank.
I would absolutely
that all of his teammates were these.
I would absolutely imply as a joke to my friends that Mr. Playboy Billionaire might have a couple of kids that squeaked through, and Mr. Hey, what's that over there? Guy may have forgotten once or twice.
I think what's truly wild about it is that by saying it out loud, as you know, he's kind of projecting maybe his own confession. Like, I don't know what he's trying to say in that moment. So
the only person on X Factor who uses a condom is Scott Summers. I'm willing to say that right now. Gene is upset about it. Scott is like, no, we have to.
Yeah. No, he's responsible. That's good. And I hope our listeners
already have
as well.
So many kids from alternate timelines. I cannot do this again.
So speaking of an alternate timeline, the backup feature to this is the Apocalypse backstory. That feels a little more of an afterthought to me. Like I feel like Wheezy has definitely put in, maybe afterthought is the wrong word, because you can tell she's thought about it quite a bit, but it doesn't work as well as it should. And sort of
the problem is with those backups is that what Louise Simonson's idea for Apocalypse was, with a few details changed, kind of the backstory we ended up with.
Yeah.
He's from the Balkans instead of from Egypt. Okay. Mm-hmm. A couple of small details change, but he's essentially Apocalypse. Like,
yeah,
he's just doing all the Apocalypse things. So you're sitting there and you're reading it and you're like, okay, but why are you telling me this? I'm assuming I already know Apocalypse's deal. The assumption is that his deal is what we already know unless proven otherwise.
Yeah, it doesn't add a tremendous amount to it, but I do appreciate the effort and the difference in the art style. You know, that's kind of going for like a, I don't know, it kind of has like a Tom Scioli kind of vibe, like Kirby-esque. But I don't think it's entirely successful.
No, but I do think that this is far more successful than X-Men Forever.
Oh, I enjoy this. I think this is actually pretty solid.
This comic's pretty good.
Yeah. And
there's worse comics out there. We read a lot of bad comics. This one's not that bad.
Right. So at 500 Judgment War, I think this is better than that.
Oh, yeah. I'd rather reread this. I have reread this since the last time I read Judgment War.
Yeah. So what are you thinking?
Let's crank this up. This is better than Deadpool Bad Blood at 479.
Yep. I think we're probably what's at 400.
I think 400s are probably going to be the right part for it.
Yeah, I think so. You know,
actually, hold on, Adam. I do think this is better than number 400, New X-Men 136, Choosing Sides. Now that I'm looking at this,
interesting. Okay, all right.
I don't know if it's that much better. Like, it's probably not better than the Hellfire Gambit or that time Generation X fought Omega Red?
No, I don't think I would go higher. This is probably on par with something like the 198 at 375. You know,
It's around there.
Yeah.
It's like this isn't as good as Into the Void from Uncanny X-Men.
Nope.
383. I think it's better than Breaking Point from Uncanny X-Men, the Fraction stuff.
Yeah, and I think
Worlds?
it's probably better than Deadpool Volume 2 at 384.
Yes, though I like Deadpool Volume 2.
I do too.
Let's make this 384.
Yeah. All right, so this is our new 384, and we've already done New Mutants Forever. So, what did we choose to finish off our episode here, Zach?
Well, you know about the X-Men, right, Adam?
I've heard of them.
The Children of the Atom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The acolytes of Xavier's Dream.
Yes.
Well, before Xavier's Dream, there were the first X-Men.
Oh, interesting. That's not something that I thought existed.
Yeah. Well, I didn't either, but luckily, do you know who did?
Mr. Neil Adams.
Neil Adams, rest in peace. I hope that when they buried you, your dreams came true and you did fall into the hollow center of the earth as you had always envisioned, Neil.
Is Neil a hollow earther?
Oh, Neil's a hollow. Neil was a notorious hollow earther. Here's the thing about Neil Adams. Neil Adams believed a lot of things with all of his heart and mind and soul, and a lot of them were good. I'm glad that the conspiracy theory that he chose was mostly harmless.
Yeah, you're not going to hurt many people. That Hollow Earth is a lot better than Flat Earth, I think, even though it's equally stupid. But
yeah, I mean, I believe that the Earth is not hollow. I want to say that for everybody, no matter what science fiction tells me. I don't think the Earth is hollow. Christos Gage is also here doing his Christos Gageiest of getting a comic out the door that needs out the door.
Right. So he's providing some script to go along with Neil Adams. And I remember when this came out, because this is 2012. And just from the cover and you look at the lineup, this is a bonkers idea. Like, clearly the X-Men did not exist canonically before the X-Men. So what are we looking at here, Zach?
It's weird because this is definitely a tie-in to X-Men First Class that took a year to come out.
Also, yeah, that's a good point.
Like, that's what this is. It's what it is. It's X-Men First Class.
Yeah.
Because the lineup is really Wolverine and Sabretooth.
Mm-hmm.
And Wolverine and Sabretooth are walking around doing their things, and he's like, bub, there's a lot more of these mutants around. Maybe someone should teach them. Maybe someone should show them about their extra abilities. And Sabretooth says, I'm not murdering anyone at this moment, so sure. Let's go become some sort of X-Mans. They aren't that blunt with it. They do try to recruit Magneto and Xavier. Xavier says, no, I want to stay with my hot girlfriend, Moira McTaggart.
Mm-hmm.
And Magneto says, I have so many Nazis to murder, guys.
Yeah, and I was really happy to see that, because if you just looked at the covers and the solicits, it did appear as if Magneto was on this team, which really threw me for a loop. And he's basically like, you guys beat it, please. I ain't got time for this crap.
Guys, again, I'm in Argentina. I can essentially feel an Iron Cross from 4 miles away. So I'm just going and killing Nazis left and right.
That's right. That is right. And so the rest of the cast is filled out by basically a bunch of kids. And it's not like they have a Cerebro to find them. So it's kind of weird that they do stumble upon these people. But we have characters like Hollow, Bomb.
Hollow, your favorite Yeti. Shadow Shift.
Okay, I do kind of love Shadow Shift, because Shadow Shift is basically just Peter Pan.
Yeah, it's Shadow Shift and Scout. Meteor.
Yep. It's like
who's Meteor. And then Yeti's brother, who doesn't get a name, but is definitely named Bigfoot.
Right. And The villain
Or
of this,
Sasquatch. No, there's already a Sasquatch. Never mind. He has to be Bigfoot.
yeah, it's I think it's just Bigfoot. So
He doesn't really get a name.
the bad guy here is the feds. Well, at
It's
least
the FBI.
some
the
of
security
them.
state. Bolivar Trask is working on making Sentinels. Fred Duncan is here. Everyone's favorite guy, Fred Duncan. FBI agent Fred Duncan is around. Is it Fred Duncan? Am I saying his name? I know
yes. No, it is.
Fred Duncan.
Frederick Duncan. Yep.
Wait. What's Blob's last name?
Not Duncan. It's Fred
Dukes.
Well, I should have known that off the top of my head. I feel bad about that.
So it threw me off because Fred Dukes and Jean Grey's boyfriend Duncan, no last name that I remember, are definitely in X-Men Evolution at the same time. That throws me off. Doesn't matter. FBI agent Fred Duncan from X-Men #2.
Yeah, and Fred is very like, hey, maybe we should work with these folks, not just like try to genocide them. And
can we not do a human rights abuse for the FBI? We have so many of those. Like, can we avoid this one?
Yeah.
Could we?
What they end up doing instead is sicking my favorite part of this miniseries is the very gross and very silly a character known as the Virus against this team.
The Virus spider walks everywhere. He's got a big head. And he's got a bunch of like IV cables, IV needles sticking out of him that he can throw into people and parade around their bodies. He does not, in any way, shape, or form, look as if he belongs in this comic book.
No, he's this super creepy horror thing. And you forgot to mention
with a dumb smile.
Yes, that for the Virus to be ambulatory, he has to have a human host to be on the back of. So they always pick a giant jacked guy like the Yeti's brother Bigfoot to strap him onto. And I just think that this concept is hilarious. He's just this like giant spider baby on the back. He's like a backpack onto like a pro wrestler who walks around like throwing Omega Red tentacles at people. And they do my favorite part of this is that they do a flashback to when he was born. It's just so funny.
He's just that same weirdo kid. He tries to put on pants like a people at one point.
Yes.
This is so wild that Neil Adams was like, okay, I'm coming back to X-Men.
Yep.
What do I do? This friggin' weird kid.
Yeah, it's very,
anyway,
very
resurrect
cool.
Virus.
Yeah, let's get Virus back, man.
Let's get Virus back our Krakoa. Would it be good? No. Would it be funny? Yes.
So I'm going to say this. I was surprised. I was anticipating I would hate this. And I was very surprised that I actually found myself kind of enjoying it because there are weird things in it, like Virus, like Peter Pan. And I said this before we started recording, Neil Adams still draws really well. Like, this book looks pretty damn good, with the exception of like Wolverine and Sabretooth have like vampire teeth the whole time. They have like Sabretooth tiger tusks.
I am not a fan of late era Neil Adams, though I can appreciate his artistry. So the art didn't land for me. I see this as more of like a B movie that you watch and it's bad, but you're enjoying it.
100%. It feels...
It's still bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it has a goofy, fun quality to it that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting something a lot more serious and trying to really embed itself into the canon. And it is not.
It does not care about being part of the canon.
Nope. Does not care. Oh, Wolverine is meeting these characters before he meets them for real. Doesn't matter. It's okay.
Does not matter. It is unimportant how any of this really works.
Mm-hmm.
Wolverine and Sabretooth are making a group of X-Men. It's very funny at the end when Wolverine kind of comes to the decision, I'm really bad at this. This was a terrible choice.
Yes.
I should not be doing this. Who let me make this decision? Which is a great bit of meta commentary, I think.
Yes. They do get to fight some sentinels. They do get to fight
They fight a
Virus.
sentinel. There's a whole thing with Sabretooth and this one of the students named Hollow that Wolverine very explicitly calls out. He says, Sabretooth, you are her teacher. And he's like, are we teachers? And he's like, I don't know, but please don't have relations with one of our students, please. She dies. All these kids die, which is great. Wolverine gets them all killed.
Peter Pan doesn't die.
He runs away. It doesn't.
His dad picks him up. He gets reunited with his dad, which is nice because we don't know this character like is a non-entity. He doesn't really appear very much in the comics. So, but yes,
most of them die. How about that?
It's not great that Sabretooth, develops a relationship with a very explicitly 18-year-old girl who transforms herself, like makes people hallucinate that she's older. Not a great look.
It's not listen, it's a very Sabretooth look. Like I get it. He's not a role model.
No.
It's weird when it ends with her giving him visions of their life together. Should she have lived, but she's not going to live. And it's like, I don't know what to do with this information, people.
Well,
you're not making me feel good about Sabretooth.
No, and it also feels very out of character. Like, you cannot imagine any sort of reality, hallucinatory or otherwise, that Sabretooth would quote-unquote settle down. Like, it just not going to happen.
He's got that animal inside him. He's got that dog inside of him, buddy. He ain't stopping.
No.
This is a weird comic. It's worth reading so that people know it exists. Like, this was just a decade ago. We cannot let it fade from memory.
I think there's enough here that it's 100% worth checking out. And, it's a revisionist history that clearly does not care whether you agree with it or not. Like Claremont is going out of his way to go back, this is the way it was supposed to be. And like Neil Adams is like, yo, I got this like spider backpack guy and Peter Pan and this girl who's going to fall in love with Sabretooth. And you're like, okay, let's just take this weird, like your description of it as a B movie is dead on. Like it definitely feels that way.
And it definitely feels like one that I don't think was intentionally made to be like there's times where you can make something schlocky intentionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is that beautiful form of it where no, they weren't intending to make anything like this, but the end product is so pure. They did exactly what they wanted to do. And what they wanted to do was something terrible and bad. They did it though. They did it with all their heart.
They did it.
Christos Gage absolutely cashed those 5 paychecks. And really, is there anything else that man wants in this world? Is to get paychecks because Dan Slott can't finish his comics?
It's a good bracket, So
it's great money if you can get it. Really.
Yeah.
I would take that job in a heartbeat. You need me to write some dialogue and figure out how to make this art make sense? Great, let's go.
I'm on it. I have mouth words for these characters. I think we're probably in the 400s here. I mean,
this is not actually a better story than X Factor Forever.
No. Fun is fun, but
Death of X is better at 430.
Yep.
Claws and Webs is better.
Where's Claws and Webs?
It's just a few below.
Oh, okay.
Actually, 454. X-Men No More Humans.
Similar.
I think this is kind of better than No More Humans.
It might be. There's enough stuff here that's fun, and I'm looking down the list, and I think we're in the right spot. New Mutants Summer Special is better than this at 452.
Yeah, New Mutants Summer Special is woefully low on this list. I'm sorry.
It's all good, Zach.
We've all changed.
What's X Factor 145 to 149? That's
the end of X Factor where you got Xavier's Underground Enforcers.
Oh. Huh.
I like Xavier's Underground Enforcers better than any of the new characters in this except for Virus.
All right. Well, then this can be our new 454.
Okay. That's a perfectly fine spot.
Yeah. I am shocked to have read this and been like, hey, that was kind of fun. you know?
It's still bad.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
just as much as we're emphasizing that X Factor Forever is actually good, we do need to emphasize this is actually bad. But if you are of the same inclination as us, you may enjoy the ways that it is bad. Adam, that was a great week. What do you got going on this that people should know about?
Folks, if you missed it, Zach mentioned it before, but the new edition of X-Men Redesigned is Shatterstar, and I am so proud of all of the artists and what they were able to accomplish. Just some really fantastic stuff, some very out of the box ideas. So if you did not check that out, go over to Comics XF and look at those really cool pieces of artwork. You can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy. Zach, what do you have going on?
Nothing.
Love
except
it.
for that interview with Claudia Sanchez. Go listen to that. Or watch it, read it with your eyeballs. I am just giddy to be able to do that.
Should be.
And I'm excited. Hey, Adam, do you know what we're doing next week? It's an All Sauron episode.
Yes.
Talk about Sauron.
I'll wear my Jordans.
I'm really excited. Have we covered all of the important Sauron stories? Absolutely. So not only are we doing Sauron, we're doing the bottom of the barrel for Sauron the dinosaur pterosaur man. I'm so excited that the podcast gives us this opportunity week in and week out to do dumb stuff. But until then, folks, this right here, this last little hour or so, this has been Battle of the Atom. And we hope you survived the experience.